I'd like to talk about introducing strangers to dogs. I have strict protocol about that here at the ranch. The dogs always come first. It is different a little bit in the ages of the dogs. So fortunately right now I have a variety of dogs to use with this. So right this minute there are 33 Maremmas here on this ranch. I'm so thrilled about that, and it's going to change because the middle litter of puppies, the oldest litter of puppies, is about to go off to their new homes, which is what prompts me doing this video now, because their new owners need some support about how to introduce their pups to new people and how that's supposed to go. So in a nutshell, the word I would use about that is consent. The dog's consent, not the person's consent. This is true for the adult dogs particularly, but it is also true for the younger dogs. My allegiance is always to my dogs. I have asked them to be resource guarders. That means I want them to own the ground they stand on. I want them to own that ground always, even if I'm there, even if strangers are there. If there is a stranger that the dog is uneasy about, and I am watchful about this before I walk into a field with any of my dogs with people, I believe that dog. I don't ask those dogs of mine to accept people that they're not comfortable with. So I have a couple of choices. I can either move the dogs into a different field while I'm in there with the stranger that the dog isn't drawn to. That's usually my first course of action. My dogs have never been aggressive, but I have two dogs, who sometimes are concerned about people, and they're uneasy about people that they don't know being in their field. Some people they just adore, but they're more comfortable if I move them into an area where they can watch everything that's going on, but they know that the person cannot approach them without coming through a gate into an area where they are. So they relax about it and they just kind of watch from a distance. And I feel like that's a point of respect between me and those two dogs. So let's see, I don't let anybody get anywhere near any of my dogs without going over the ground rules. And it's a real short speech, and it's easy, and it's not complicated, but to me it's critical. So with the puppies and the adolescent dogs, any kind of clothing, any kind of headgear, any kind of shoes, any kind of anything is okay. Because the stranger the better. The more weird things that these little guys see when they're young, the more bulletproof they are as adults. The adult dogs that I have, when I raised them, especially a couple of them, I didn't know as much as I know now, and I could have done a better job. Maybe it would have been the same if I had still done a better job, but several of the dogs are really uncomfortable in being around people that are wearing mirrored sunglasses. My dogs really want to look people in the eye, and they're uneasy if they can't connect in that eye contact with a person. In canine to canine language, a dog looking another dog in the eye is a challenge. For my dogs, what I have observed in being around strangers, they become uneasy if that stranger doesn't allow them that eye contact. So the dog initiates it, the dog asks for it. And so what I tell people is, if the dog presents himself in a way that he's looking you in the eye, be steady and still and look that dog in the eye and let him get a good take on you. That's what the dog is asking for, so that's what you need to give him. I abhor people walking out and doing this to the dogs. They want the dog to smell them. Boy, give my dogs some credit. These guys know where the mountain lions are up on the hill. Anybody that drives up the driveway, they know you're here. You open the car door and you get out, they know you're here. So holding a hand out like that doesn't make a lot of sense to them. Some of them have gotten so that they are accepting of it a little bit, but so what I tell people is, if I'm not doing it, don't do it. So if I'm not out there like this, if I'm not down on my heels, if I'm not doing this and asking the dog to come to me, then I don't want my stranger to do it. I also tell strangers, do not kiss, cluck, entice, call, tail off, get down, whatever. Don't give verbal cues to my dogs of any variety, either sounds or words. Just don't. For a couple of reasons. The top reason is that they have no standing with my dogs. As you well know, if you've been around guardian dogs at all, you have to earn the right to be their partner. And unless you're their partner, whatever chatter you give to them is static. It's just noise. And I have taught my dogs that if I say something in word or a kissy noise or whatever, or a gesture, I mean it. It means something. And that's a language that is well established. So if I let somebody else do it and I know they won't be successful, and they're doing something, anything similar to what I do that I am always successful at, I dilute that success rate with my own dogs because it muddies the picture a little bit. People that come to the ranch that want to meet my dogs are starry-eyed in love with the dogs before they go in there. That's part of why they're here on the ranch. I want them to interact with people. People do lots of unconscious behaviors. We're all used to saying off to a dog, or, I mean, I guess I don't do that as much as I used to, but we all have history. We all have learned muscle mechanics and just habits about being around dogs. So without even thinking, people will do things like that. They'll say, get off, get down, you know, whatever. It's very innocent. And so I say the ground rules before we go in. I get an agreement with people that they understand why the rules are there and that they will do their best. Having said that, when I go in with the dogs, if the people do something that I'm not comfortable with, and we've already talked about it, I can say, now remember. And that's fair because we both know the ground rules now, so I can just tune it up with a word or two when I'm around my dogs because I've set it up ahead of time. So my dogs love strangers. This tends to work absolutely seamlessly every time anybody goes anywhere near my dogs, but it's not an accident. It's because I've been careful about how I set it up. So, consent. If an adult dog is not comfortable with a person coming in their field, they should not be asked to give up the control of that field for that person. That's a key piece to this. All right, now standing under me, mostly they left, are the littlest puppies. Are you here? Is anybody around? There's 5 of them and it's warm and they're sleepy and maybe they weren't where you could see them very much. These little guys are learning about manding. That is a behavior that looks like a sit, but it's not. It is a pup that has learned that if they put their butt on the ground, it will always get my attention. I will always come and put my hands on the pup that chose to do that. That, for my dogs, is the very first piece of what's called operant conditioning, which is that the dog is the operator. The dog learns that if he makes a choice, that choice can make me do something. And the first behavior that they learn this with is manding. These little guys are 9.5 weeks old or so. They got a little bit of a slow start about manding, so they're a little behind the curve, a little. But they're very clear on that they can make me come and touch them before somebody else if they're manding. What they get to learn with strangers is very cool. They get to learn that not only does that work on me, but it works on everyone they meet, which is marvelous. So it generalizes that learned behavior. It means that with any person in any place at any time, it has always worked. The only way that that can happen with a stranger is if I told them what it was. So we talk about it beforehand. When we go in, if a puppy jumps on you, ignore it. When we go in, if a puppy sits and gazes in your eyes, reach across the other puppies and cuddle that pup and watch the pups, because they'll circle around on their feet. One of them will go behind intentionally and gaze up like, do you see me? I'm back here behind you and I'm doing this on purpose. So you need to be watchful so you can catch the puppies getting it right. And once visitors figure this out, it's great fun for everyone. The puppies get all excited about it and the visitors get excited about it. The other thing is, when you're playing with puppies that are little, if you play from this kind of a height, you're asking them to jump up on you because they want to reach your hands. So one of the things that's really important is either keep your hands to yourself so that they're not dangling puppy toys, or be sure that you're down here, down where the dog, like almost middle of the chest, where you can easily put your hands on the dog in the position you want him to be as an adult, which is 4 on the floor solidly. So be thinking about that before you go in and go to their height with conscious thought. So I'll show you what that means. Are you guys going to be awake enough to play with me? Hi, how's it going? So I don't open a gate if there's dog paw on it, and so they know that they have to get down. Hi! Hello, little wagtail dog. So, I'm down here. Hi, baby. Down right where they are. Hello. So I am happy to say hello to any puppy who's standing on the ground. Now I'm going to take my hands. Yes. Took my hands away and I got a manding immediately from that guy. Anybody else want to play my game? Very nice. Oh, that's just so lovely. That's just lovely. You know how to do this. Oh, yes. Very beautiful. Beautiful. Yes. Anybody else? So I'm not asking for this behavior. It's not a cued behavior. It's an offered behavior. But where I position my body can make it more likely for the puppies to give it to me. So I am tipping the odds in my favor. Yes. And then watching and being quick to reward the puppies that aren't sitting for me. I'm just kind of around. I'm not giving them a lot of attention. They're not in trouble. But they're not getting a fuss made over them like these guys that are purposefully doing a behavior that they've learned works. There, thank you, good dog. So that's how you interact with my puppies when they're little teeny tiny guys like this.